And welcome back to this little corner of the world, my in-progress studio, which isn't finished yet. But we're going to be starting a project. Anyway, uh, I have a beautiful double wedding ring. This belongs to Lynette. Lynette did me a big favor last summer. Uh, I had a quilt that was on the frame, and this was when my mother was still alive. And the quilt was very problematic as far as me getting it finished. I did one whole row, and the tension was really bad on the back. So I took it out and I ripped all the stitches out. And then I checked all the tension, cleaned everything, did the whole rigmarole. Got it back on the machine, and I started stitching, and it seemed like it was going fine. I kept checking it. Looked good, but when I rolled it up, again, the tension was bad on the back. And I think this time I had like 2.5 rows quilted, and I just took it off, and I just couldn't handle it because my mom was really not doing well at that point. And I just couldn't handle. I thought I could knock this quilt out and get it back to its owner and get it off of my head, but it didn't work that way. So I I just let it sit there for a while, thinking that I would somehow sit and take the stitches out again. But I was talking about it at one of the guild nights, and Lynette said, "Give it to me, and I will take the stitches out." I said, "No, I can't even imagine someone would do that." And she said, "No, I'll do it." And she did. Her and her husband sat and took all those stitches out. So I owe Lynette big time. And so I'm going to be working on Lynette's double wedding ring. And I'm going to be talking about also how you do, I know we always do a lot of pantos. And this is how you do a little bit of custom work. And I'm not going to do a panto on this. I'm actually going to do a little bit of a mix and match. I'm going to be doing Elegant Feathers, which is a design by Jessica Schick. And this is Elegant Feathers. It's designed specifically for a double wedding ring. And that's going to go inside that kind of a squarish, elongated square, and also the little melon. That's going to go in all of those points. But first, I believe I'm going to go in the ditch around all of the blue. So I'll do in the ditch work around all of the blue, and then I'm going to do put the Elegant Feathers in by Jessica Schick. And you can see here how it fits in into the double wedding ring. And then once all of that is finished, then I'm going to switch over to something else. But I'm going to have to see about this first. I don't know exactly if this was even designed for this, but I found it and I want to try it. I don't know if you'll be able to see this from here. I'll try and see if I can show you a little closer, but there's an element of this particular design, not all of it, but an element of it that looks like ribbon candy from Christmas. And it's in an arc that looks like it could be part of a double wedding ring. But this design is not called double wedding ring. It's called Moulin Rouge Metro Hoop Block, and it's called Curve. And this is by Patricia Ritter. So I'm only going to use the the ribbon candy, and I'm going to use the ribbon candy in the arc after I do the ditch work, just so that there's a little bit of quilting there. And I'm going to do that in all of the arcs. Excuse me. Then I'm going to switch again to chiffon, Wholecloth. And excuse me, I just had dinner. That's my donut in there. I'm going to be doing the chiffon, which looks very similar to the elegant feather, which is why I chose it, because I wanted to try and stay in a very classical feather design, because double wedding ring is a very classic design. The blue and white's very crisp. So I'm trying to look for something that stays very traditional. Feathers to me seems like the ideal point. To me, these looked very, very similar in design-wise, but I'm only going to be picking out pieces of this. The center square of the chiffon I'm going to shrink down, and those are going to be the four corners of the border. And then I'm only going to use the straight component of the border, not the undulating border. I'm only going to use the straight border on the actual border. And there's a component on the between where the double wedding ring ends and where the border begins, where it has these triangle units that flip-flop. And I don't have anything from the double wedding ring that would match that. There's no elegant feathers for that portion. So I'm going to use this portion here of the chiffon block. I'm going to just flip-flop it and change the size of it as I go. So this is going to be what I would call certainly custom work. And it's just all going to be a matter of, dropping these in. It'll all be block work, except for the border will be a panto. It's the only one I'll bring in as a panto. The rest will be brought in as a block, and I'll be marking it on the quilt when I bring it in as a design. The only thing that I'll do other than that is the ditch work around the blue first, just to stabilize it. And I will, of course, base the edges of the quilt before I even get started. I just gave the quilt a good steaming. It is a curved quilt. There's lots of curved seams in here. So there was a little bit of dimension to this quilt. And when I steamed it, it seemed like it got a lot of that under control. So I want to be very gentle with it. As I take it over to the machine, I might roll it up a little bit like you would a pie dough as you're trying to take it into the pie plate so that you're not stretching it. So I'm going to get that on there. I don't know for me if I'm actually going to get any of the stitching done tonight on a block. And I will tell you, this is not going to all be done in one video, because it's going to be a lot of steps. So I'm going to break it up into at least 2, maybe 3, just to make my mind simpler, and so I can get it out, in pieces. But that's what I'm going to do. The other thing is, there's 2 other things. I am double batting this one. It's got a cotton on the bottom and it will have wool on the top, just so that the the quilting shows up a little bit better. The wool is on top, as I said. And also, if it were me quilting it totally of my own decisions, all my own decisions, I would only be using white, a nice white, pure white thread, all on the white. That's just me. I really like traditional quilting, and that's how it would have been done, white on white. I would have done the white in the ditch work right next to the blue. And the only thing I would have done in blue was the ribbon candy on the arc. But the Lynette has requested blue. So I'm going to see what is the highest value of blue that I could live with. I am not a huge fan of high contrast thread color. I'm sure you've heard me say this a lot. One is it shows mistakes, and I'm not perfect. So that's number one. Number two, everyone has their own preference as far as this goes. To me, quilting should be uh, the proper way to wear perfume or cologne. You should not be aware of it until you're in close proximity to the person. You should not smell it when you walk in the room and the person's all the way across the room. To me, that's like jarring. And also, I think quilting should be that way, and shouldn't be that way. You should not see the quilting screaming at you all the way across the room. It should be something that the pattern you see, the double wedding ring, and then as you are drawn closer to the quilt, then you start to see the beautiful quilting, the texture. That to me is how it should be. That's just my personal opinion on quilting and cologne, quilting and perfume. So I personally don't even wear cologne or perfume because I've known too many people that have allergy-induced asthma. So I'm going to go ahead and get this rolled up and over to the frame. I already have the batting loaded, the backing loaded. The new designs are already on the IQ. And I don't know if I've told you this little story. I don't know if I have or not. I have had my IQ for since around, I guess since COVID, around COVID, 2020, somewhere around there. And they always talk about muscle memory. You know, you'll do it all the time and you'll remember. It'll be mindless, blah, blah, blah. So I brought my machine over here and set it up, came downstairs. I put it on the machine on the track, put the robotics back on the machine, and I came downstairs and I did the testing on it and the drift test. Everything came out perfect. I was amazed. I didn't have to make any adjustment at all. I had the IQ on, everything was gorgeous. I shut it off, and then the next day or the day after I came down to do something. And it wouldn't come on. The tablet wouldn't come on. So I took it off and put it on the charger, let it wait 24 hours, wouldn't come on. Put it back on the head of the machine, wouldn't come on. So I contacted IQ and they said, push the button 10 times and it'll come on. So 10 times I pushed it, didn't come on. I tried over and over 10 times. So they said it's probably the battery. Ship it to us. It's going to be like $600 for a new tablet because they don't change batteries for that. So I braced for having to pay for a whole new tablet, and I shipped my IQ back. The nice thing is that IQ and I are both in Ohio. So I got a message from IQ, and they're like, we charged it up and it charged fine, and we got it to turn on. And he said, then I uncharged it and charged it back, and it came on. He said, was that the problem you were having? I said, yes. Wouldn't come on. And he says, well, it's working fine. So he sent it back, and I put it back on the machine, and I pushed the button again, and it didn't come on. And then I was having a good look at the machine because I had to put the harness back on and everything. And then I saw the button on the side of the tablet. And I had been pushing this random button on the top of the tablet. I don't even know what that button at the top does, but it was not the on and off button. And that's what I had been pushing, trying to get my tablet on, not the side where the actual power button was. And so why in the world I started pushing that top button all of a sudden, thinking that was going to power up my IQ, when I didn't even know that button was up there. So I paid for shipping for nothing, and I wasted all that time for nothing. And I fretted about having to pay for a new tablet for nothing. And that muscle memory story is a bunch of malarkey. So anyway, next time you see me, I'm going to be over at a new station in a new winter setting, and hopefully we'll have that all squared away. I apologize that I have on my painting shirt still. I'm jumping back and forth between occupations, I guess, very rapidly. I have this quilt on the frame, and as I said, when you're doing something like this, it's certainly going to be custom quilting charges. Uh, so far up to this point, this is my 4th night working on it. Just outlining the stitching has taken 4 nights, and that's all I'm going to get done for this video. So what I'm going to be calling this is just the wedding planner. All I've been doing is stitching around all of the arcs, around all of the inside of the blocks, and around the entire perimeter of the double wedding ring. The next part of the next video in this series will be the center block. And there's a couple things. I don't really quilt for hire like a long armor. Like a normal long armor, like people would seek out, and they have a list of clients and they have a list of quilts going. That's not my, it's not my jam. I enjoy doing long arming, and I do special occasion things. So when I do something for somebody, I usually have a little more latitude in what I'm doing than the regimented work that some long armors have to go by. So I chose the batting for this, and I'm glad I did. I double batted this, and it has cotton and wool, and that really benefited me in this case. Earlier I said there was a lot of play in the blocks in the middle with all of these curves, and I imagine if I had done this quilt, it may have been worse. And I'll show you again if you can't see it at this angle. But in the center of the block and in the center of each of the arcs, there's a lot of play in the white area of the block. And by stitching, and I'm not even going to say in the ditch, because my in the ditch isn't exactly in the ditch, it's more of just like an outline. But by doing that with the double bat, that double bat required, filled in all of that extra fabric. It ate up all that ease. So you can see the difference between one that's been quilted and these looser ones that have not been quilted yet on the inside. So that made a huge difference, and that may be something you want to think about in the future if you have a block that has a lot of extra dimension to the block. Perhaps a double bat or a very thick batting would benefit the outcome of the quilt, because the dimensionality of it helps absorb some of that dimension of the top itself. So that was very beneficial. The other thing that I decided, Lynette had, when we were talking about the thread color, Lynette had mentioned maybe variegated, and I have a problem. I don't know why I have the problem, but I have a problem with variegated thread. I don't know if it's just my variegated thread, but it just keeps breaking. When I'm doing like a pantograph, it breaks about 4 or 5 times on every pass, regardless of what adjustments I make. And I bought new thread, I've changed the thread, I've changed the needle, all kinds of things. It just seems like variegated thread isn't as strong as the solid thread. Variegated thread seems to only have two strands, but I think the isocord only has 2 also. Anyway, it snaps a lot, so I didn't want to do variegated thread on this. And also I didn't want to do a real dark color blue, and so I just kept wondering what I should do. But I kind of came up with maybe a bit of a compromise. What I'm going to be doing is, I like to think of it as ombre. I always like ombre fabric. I'm going to be kind of doing an ombre look. The rings, the arcs of the double wedding ring have an ombre look because of the piecing. They go from a light to a darker blue batik. And so I'm going to use different thread colors in different positions. I'm not going to start with the very lightest blue, because I'm going to save that very lightest blue for the quilting on the very dark border. That will be the very last thing I do. So I'm going to start with my second value of blue. That's going to be in the largest portion of the double wedding ring block, the center. And then the next darker value is going to be in the arc of the rings. And then the next darker value, now I don't know if this is going to be 1 or 2 values at this point, because I have to look at it when I get there. But around the outside of the double wedding ring, before you get to the border, there's going to be a triangular design, but that design is going to flip-flop in order for me to fill in the space that is there. So I don't know if I'm going to use 1 value thread there or 2. So the effect of it will be that there'll be 3 different values of thread and then a 4th one on the border. So in my mind, I'm kind of doing a little bit of a variegation on the thread. But that's what we're going to be getting. But I'm almost finished with the outlining. I just have these last 2 bits to do, but I wanted to leave them undone so I could show you, you know, like how loose these are before they're quilted and after, because they were all this way. So I'm going to come around and show you, and then that'll probably be it for this video, because I'm overdue. I'm always overdue. At some point, I'm not going to be overdue. And if I have time before the next video starts, I'll tell you a little private story. It was a good thing that happened. This is a kind of personal thing, but I'll tell you on the beginning of the next one. Here, these are like tight as a drum. This one's not quilted, but you can see here, puckers. And if you come over this way, I mean, wow, you can really see these puckers in there. And those will all come out. They'll all be tight as a drum when I stitch in here because of that double batting. So they'll all end up being just as tight as these. And that's the benefit of that wool batting on top. So you'll see when I'm done, which you won't see today, but it's gonna, all of that will just completely sew out, all because of the double back. So that's it for this time. Until next time, keep piecing it together. Okay, that is the last 3 blocks, the last 2 little pieces. I just went ahead and did it so that I'd be able to sleep tonight. Nice and tight, all finished and ready for the next video where I can drop those digitized designs right in the center block.